Talking about is apologetics today. You might be like, what is happening? Where's my Martha? And your Martha's right here. I am absolutely, my husband's knee deep in apologetics. I, by nature or by proxy, am knee deep in apologetics. And really, I feel like people need to understand why we need to know it. Doesn't mean you have to do a bunch of super research on it or anything like that, but why is it our responsibility to know it? And so anyway, first, before we go into that, let's go ahead and pray. Dear Lord, thank you for today. Thank you for everything that you do for us, again, with creating this community where we can come together, link arms, lift each other up. Thank you for also sprinkling in exactly what we need, exactly when we need it. And so whenever we need to hear something, all of a sudden it pops up in front of us. And God, we know that's you. We know you give us the guideposts. You give us the things that we need to see. And we're like, man, that is just so crazy that thing just happened. And God, we know that it's you and it's not crazy at all. It is by design. And so we thank you. We thank you for your guidance always. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, so apologetics. Some people have watched the movie God's Not Dead. And a lot of people loved that movie. And I think that the reason that they loved it so much is because it is based in apologetics. You just don't necessarily realize that that's what it is. That movie was actually based on the book Cold Case Christianity. The link is in the description of this video here for Cold Case Christianity. It's an incredible book. Okay, that is by J. Warner Wallace. He was an atheist. He was a detective, right? A homicide detective. So he would have to go to crime scenes. Well, he did many different things, but he would have to go to crime scenes, and then he would have to make sense of things whenever, he would have to put together what likely happened here, right? Like what could have, what's possible, but then what's probable, right? Because there's a world of possibilities. And then there's the what's probable, and then there's the proof, right? And it's kind of, it works through that. And so that's what he did. And so what Cold Case Christianity is it's him. Here, let me just tell you about, real quick, there's a couple things. Before we get into all of this meat, which I just went ahead and dove into the meat because, hi, I'm Martha. It's a little bit early and I chose to do that for some reason. Let me explain to you why the meat is necessary, right? The meat is necessary because, quite frankly, the enemy lives in the gray areas. The enemy lives in the confusion. The enemy lives in a 99% truth with a 1% lie. And if we don't know better, if we, as Christians, don't know better, then we won't be able to tell the truth from the lie. And if we can't tell the truth from the lie, then it's likely we're going to end up with the lie. And it's likely we're going to veer off path. And it's likely that we're going to end up in a situation with wherever the enemy is taking us. And it's because we don't know better. And so a lot of Christians, whenever they, you share the gospel and you say, what Jesus has done and just kind of like this golden thread through the Bible of the, of what was said, the prophecies of what was said was going to happen, and then what happened, and da-da-da-da. And then people from the outside world will say, yeah, but I don't believe the Bible. And then what do you say? And you're like, oh, well, I guess we can't, I guess it's just not okay. And we live in a world right now where a lot of people believe that Christians are naive and believe that we just believe the Bible as a crutch, or because we need to, or because we need some big superhero in the sky to take care of us. No, we love our God. And we are not naive. And here's where apologetics comes into play, is there is proof. Outside of the Bible, there still is proof. There's proof contextually. There's proof of what happened at different times in history. There's a huge amount of external, atheist even, proof of what happened in the Bible. And so whenever people come to us and they're like, well, I don't believe this, that, or whatever, let me back up for a second. The world, I was going to say in my opinion, but I don't even think it's in my opinion. I think it's the truth. The world is searching for Jesus. The world is. And if we don't know the truth and how to be able to have good, coherent conversations with people, then our part of their potential salvation may not be a thing. But what if? What if we do understand apologetics? And what if we can have good conversations with people? This is a very important topic. And so to even be talking about it so early in the morning is like, oh my gosh. But if we don't, so there's one apologist who is just, he is gung-ho about making sure that kids understand apologetics, because in the world of the internet and in the world of misinformation just being able to be spread about willy-nilly, somebody says a thing and then, okay, well, maybe that's true. But people are saying things with nothing to back it up. And so there are atheists and there are pantheists. A pantheist is going to think my mouse to my computer is God, like that's a pantheist, is everything is God. And there's these people spouting these different things all over the place. Nobody is giving truth behind it. And so if we come with truth, that's what people need to hear. And if our kids don't understand apologetics and they don't understand the truth and the proof of what we believe, then it might be a slippery slope, guys. It might be. Okay? And so the guy that does that a whole lot is William Lane Craig. And he's a debater. So my husband listens to him a lot. He's very highbrow. He uses big words. He's a debater, right? Seems like a very gracious guy, but he's, like a debater. He's going to get into some details and some meta and some big words where you're like, what just happened to my brain? But there are other people like J. Warner Wallace, who was the detective who wrote Cold Case Christianity. Again, I strongly suggest that book. He also, J. Warner Wallace also wrote a book for kids to be able to understand why. Because kids, what he's found is that kids between the ages of 8 and 12 are starting to wonder if Christianity is real. So if kids have grown up, then they're starting between 8 and 12, they're starting to know if Christianity is real. And so he wrote a kid's book, y'all. The link is in the description of this video again. Kid's book to help your kids understand why it's real and the proof and all of those things coming from a detective background. You see how that's like important? There's also, and I love that all of these apologists that we have in Christianity, there's a lot of them started out as atheists. A lot of them started out trying to prove Christianity wrong. So Lee Strobel is one of them. And his wife had come to Jesus and she was going to church and all of that stuff. Lee Strobel was an award-winning editor for the Chicago Tribune he was a legal editor for the Chicago Tribune. So imagine Argument Central, right? And award-winning, okay? Can't leave that out. So as his wife comes to Christianity, he's like, but this isn't true. This isn't a thing. And so what he did is he set out to prove Christianity wrong. He set out to prove it wrong. And so what he did, you guys, in his trying to prove it wrong, legal editor of the Chicago Tribune, in his trying to prove it wrong, he proved it right. And he came to Jesus. And a lot of these atheists, you guys, have tried to prove it wrong and have not been able to do so. And what they do instead is they prove it right. That happened with J. Warner Wallace. It happened with Lee Strobel. It's amazing, you guys. But a lot of us don't know this world. We know the praise and the worship. And we know the just like the being in communion with Jesus, but we don't pay attention to or just don't know about this whole other world that exists, which I believe it's our responsibility to know these things, because if we just have our relationship with Jesus, is that enough? As disciples of Jesus today, is it enough for us to just have a relationship with Jesus? Or do we need to be able to communicate it in a way that people can understand? I venture to say, if we're just doing this, we're not doing enough. I'm just going to say that. We're not doing enough. We need to be able to do this. And our kids need to be able to see us doing this. Our kids need to be able to do this. It's just, our kids will get to a certain age where their friends will say, you believe in a fairy tale. Like you believe in Santa Claus, basically. And our kids need to be able to say, nope, and here's why. And then imagine the ripple effect that has. That's why I'm talking about something that's so relatively heavy, I suppose, in the morning, because I just want us as parents, I want us to be able to think about it. I want us to really understand. So Nora is going to be going through this book, this kid's book. Mike brought it up to her 2 or 3 days ago. And he's like, hey, there's this apologetics book for kids where you can learn about, the truth about Jesus and Christianity and da-da-da. Her eyes went, oh, she wants it all. She's 8. She wants it all. You guys, I think this is incredibly important for us. Incredibly important. So some different people that you can look out for. Lee Strobel, he's got his own books and stuff. J. Warner Wallace, William Lane Craig. He's the one that's going to be a little bit highbrow, but if you're a knowledge person, that's your person you want to go for. C.S. Lewis. He was an amazing apologist, started out atheist, right? You guys, this is all I'm talking about this morning. I'm not going to move on to anything else. This is it. Truth is freedom, I'm just going to say. Yes, but God. Same with our pastor. Absolutely, we need to reach others. That's it. I'm definitely getting the kids' book for my grands. Yes. Oh, I love that. This is just, somebody said that. Yeah. You guys, I'm going to pop out of here. Have the best day. If you feel like you have somebody that needs to see this, just pass this on to them. But I just think that as parents, I think we really need to hunker down on truth, because there's a lot of misrepresentation of truth floating around, and people just say things loudly and boldly and with no backup. And so other people believe them. And God forbid those people be our kids. Okay? I love you guys. Adios.